Hey guys, so look, we're not big bettors, but we love Fanatics Sportsbook because it works differently than any other sportsbook. When you bet, they give you fan cash back, win or lose. Fan cash is Fanatics reward currency, so you could use it to buy new merch like this hat on fanatics.com or flip it into a bonus bet. It's the perfect sportsbook if you want to throw a little something on the game and get some awesome merch too. Download the Fanatics Sportsbook app and let the playoffs begin. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts residents call 800-327-5050. New York residents call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland residents visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. We are coming at you, recording this at 8:15 p.m. on Monday, April 28th. The Miami Heat are currently losing 49-19 on their home court. I did not think the vibes could get any better than they were a couple minutes ago before I saw the score, but apparently I was wrong. Heat culture is dead. Knick culture is soaring. And I'm here to talk about it with my buddy, Jeremy Cohen. Hello, Jeremy. How are you?
Hello, John. Even better now that you just told me that news. Schadenfreude is pretty great. Yeah. What was it? Didn't Tyler Hero say something at the end of the last game where it was like, we're not going to lose 4-0?
You know what? He said that. He thought that because the Miami Heat had played so poorly in game 3 that the NBA was just going to skip past game 4 and they were going to go down 3-0 and then the Cavs would just get to move on. But no, they actually did need to play a fourth game, but apparently the Heat didn't realize they needed to play a fourth game, hence the score.
Happens to the best of us, right? Whomst amongst us hasn't remembered that we have to play a game 4 while down 3-0. It happens.
So one of the national media people said, I think it was after like game 1 of Oklahoma City and Memphis, that if you lose by 50 points, it should count for 2. It should count for 2 wins. I would be up for some sort of rule like that.
I think so. Also, with Memphis, you got to ask yourself, was it worth it? Let me work it, because you just lost a first round pick that you
Did we talk about this?
Yeah, I
talked about it with someone recently, but yeah.
I can't remember if it was me, honestly, as we talked about. Can't remember what I had for breakfast. But the fact that they lost their first round pick and still got swept by the Thunder, not a great way to end your season. Pretty bleak, especially considering they were the second seed for a good chunk of the year.
They lost their first round pick. They lost 4 consecutive games. They lost their head coach, and they lost their pride in the process. It has not been a great postseason or season, I guess, as it were, for the Memphis Grizzlies. Has not been a great season for the Miami Heat, who are now losing 55-21. There's a lot of teams. I do, on a more serious note, prayers up for Damian Lillard, hope for a speedy recovery. But like, things are not going great in Milwaukee right now. They're going to have a whole host of conversations over the summer. And, for as up and down a season as we have had here, talking about the local basketball team that plays their games in Madison Square Garden, they have somehow arrived at a place where things are feeling pretty good at the moment. And we're going to have a conversation at the end of this episode about the best playoff wins of the Thibodeau era. Last week we did best game 1 wins. This time we're just going to go flat out best playoff wins, because that's how good things feel right now. And I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm saying to myself, well, things are never as good as they seem after a win, and things are never as bad as they seem after a loss. And you can think back to just 2 games ago. How did things feel, and what was the conversation like after game 2? So I don't quite know how to feel right now. And as usual, I'm just going to ask you how I should feel. Can you tell me how I should feel, Jeremy? Because that would make my life a lot easier.
Absolutely, John. You should feel good. You should feel good. It could be worse, right? Way worse. But it's not. It's not. And that's the gist of it. That game 4 at T Squared was a wonderful experience, and really glad to share it with everyone who was there. A lot of people showed up, and even 45 minutes after the game, I still had not caught my breath. I still hadn't quite decompressed in a way that I was like, let me process this whole game. Because it was a whirlwind. I went from thinking this is a blowout win to this feels like I've just watched a 3-hour compilation video on YouTube of blimps exploding, one right after the other, just in the most egregious ways possible. Like, didn't even realize a blimp could blow up like that kind of thing. And then at the very end, I couldn't believe it. It was like a puppy saved a baby from a burning building, and everything felt great. And I just couldn't fathom those feelings. I couldn't believe what I just watched. It was atrocious. It was beautiful. It was disgusting. I felt anxious. I didn't feel worried. I felt anxious. And then Jalen Brunson goes down, and I'm like, nope. It's not anxiety anymore. No. It's just sadness. It's just dread. It's worry. It's all of the above. He was out for a month. He's not coming back. Yeah. How could he? And then he comes back to the bench. It's like, okay, well, he's on the bench. It's great. Is he playing? Like, we all saw that, right? We all saw his leg and how he couldn't get up, that whole thing. And lo and behold, he got up. I hope his back is feeling all right because he helped put the team on it. And Karl-Anthony Towns did a great job of that too. And Mikal Bridges hit some clutch shots. And it was just an out-of-body experience where I just felt like I need a cigarette and I don't even smoke. It's just one of those moments, just like, I got to calm my heart rate somehow. That's insane. So that's how I'm feeling, John. Does that? I saw the video of you that D took. It was a great video. I wish your daughter had a little bit more patience for the Knicks as we do, or for your excitement. But that kids being kids, we've been there. How are you?
No, you know what? I'm better now that I just heard all that from you. Could we actually, amongst everything you just said, the thing that I thought we had to stop and dwell on for a second? Jalen Brunson is not on the injury report for Game 5, which is like, like we talked about it recently, and I have some context, but like Campaign went down with an ankle issue in a game. He managed to finish or come back in or stay in and finish the first half, and then he wasn't able to go for the rest of the game, and then he was out for whatever it was, a couple weeks. I was like, as I was waking up and feeling great today, I was like bracing myself for like, wait a minute, are we sure Jalen Brunson's gonna be able to play in Game 5? Now, obviously, it's Jalen Brunson, the guy who once said, if I could walk, I could play. And we know, unlike a lot of players in the league, he actually means it. But still, to not be probable or like, let alone questionable or something like that. I was, were you, it doesn't seem like you were surprised by that at all. It must be just me.
It's Jalen Brunson, right?
It's Jalen Brunson.
It's Jalen Brunson. I would imagine he's in a tremendous amount of pain. I feel like I say this every single week because that's just how he plays and how he carries on. And you wouldn't necessarily know it. There was on that drive where he's defended by Schroeder and looked like he could have easily gotten a foul call, but didn't. I guess he didn't grift hard enough. I thought, great, he's going to grimace and not be able to play, and this is all over again. He was fine. Got up and kept playing because whatever they gave him, whether it was adrenaline and or heavy sedation, seemed to do fine. Yeah, maybe he went to the leg store and got a new leg. I don't know, but he seems healthy enough where he can keep playing, and that's really important because the Knicks needed him so badly yesterday. It was.
I mean, so as usual, we try to inject some level of nuance into Knicks discussion here, with varying levels of success. It feels like there's a couple different conversations. Really, you could say that there's 3 different conversations to be had here. There's the conversation about Game 4, which isn't even a conversation. It's just like it's vibes. It's like wavy lines in different colors emitting from anyone who had the pleasure of watching the game. It's floating on cloud 9 like we've all been doing for the last 24 hours, whatever it's been. So there's that conversation. There's the conversation about the series, which I just looked it up because I didn't remember it off the top of my head. I'm sure there have been other series in recent memory that this has been the case for, but they're up 3-1 and they have outscored the Detroit Pistons by a total of 8 points.
Mm-hmm.
And they've actually been outscored in the last 3 games, even though they have won 2 of those 3 games, which is wild. And then there was the conversation about this team as a whole, which I think connects to both of the other 2 conversations, because we went into this postseason wondering, like, for all their talent, for all the expectations going in, like, what are we going to get here? And I feel like that question, that conversation kind of has more answers to it now than it did a week and a half ago. And yet you would think, like, okay, they won both games in Detroit. They're coming back home for a game 5 that, like, in front of their home fans, like, this thing is 100% going to be over in 5. And yet there is the part of me that watched this team for 82 games. And I'm like, wouldn't it be like them? Wouldn't it be like them to actually have to send this thing back to Detroit? And I'm fighting that feeling. I'm fighting that instinct. And it's just like, there's a lot of stuff going on the old insides, as it were. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at.
Which is fair, especially when you consider where were they at after game 4 last year. Afternoon game on a Sunday, chance to close it out at home in 5 games. And Tyrese Maxey decided, let's keep playing. Let's keep going. And that's concern. And I get it. And when you then consider how this team has operated this year, where it's like, yes, very good team, 51 wins. We're happy about it. Keep the momentum going. Something still just doesn't feel entirely right. So I think it's what you're feeling. I totally understand that as well. It's also the feeling of escape where, to your point, yes, if you're outscored in these games and still, the collection of them, but still winning, you're going to feel like, well, do we deserve to be out in front? And
that's exactly where I'm at.
Deserve doesn't matter to me, because what matters to me is the 3 games that the Knicks have to the 1 that the Pistons. There's very little that we deserve in this world. And for the Knicks, when it comes to basketball, I've seen enough heartbreak over my lifetime to just say deserve. If anything, that has nothing to do with it whatsoever.
I'm happy you went there. I was, so when you first started talking about deserve, I was thinking to myself, deserve in terms of, have you played well enough, right? Have you played well enough? Have you executed well enough? Has your game plan been good enough? I actually think their game plan has been great. I think the game plan, their adjustments, for the most part, game 2 was a little rough, but for the most part, their adjustments have been really good. I like how they have gone about trying to defend the Detroit Pistons. I like how, again, for the most part, they have gone about trying to score against the Detroit Pistons. So, like, all of that. And yet each of these games have featured, stretches that have lasted, a quarter or whereabouts in each of these 4 games, where it's just like, this team just goes out there and kind of farts away possession after possession. And it's like, it temporarily forgets what it is that the goal is. Like, what are they doing out there? That's what I was referencing when I say deserve. And that's the part of me that still has the trepidation going into game 5. And I'm, to be very clear, not even thinking about the next round yet. I mean, I'm like, I shouldn't say I'm not thinking about it. I'm not like letting myself think about it. It's I get who's probably going to be there, but I digress. I think what you're talking about, and we should get into this conversation because we do have a Knicks podcast, and it is part of the conversation right now, is the foul at the end of the game and the role that it plays in, where we are. I will just say this. Putting aside how that game was called, and putting aside even how that how this entire series has been called. And putting aside the irony of the fact that the Detroit Pistons, the ones who have been screaming and crying and all of the things, and their fans and some of the beat reporters over the last 24 hours, they were the ones who they weren't beating around the bush. They came out and said from before the first game, we're going to make this into a street ball fight. Like we're bringing wrenches. You're trying to dodge balls. We're throwing wrenches. Like they made it very clear what they wanted this series to look like. And so for them to now be the ones who are all of a sudden aggrieved, I find to be rather amusing. But again, putting that aside, we have all been on both sides of the fence where we get a call that goes in our way and where we get a call or a situation that does not go in our way. And us here as Knicks fans, we could cite chapter and verse instances, big instances, playoff shifting, series shifting instances of things that did not go the Knicks' way. It's just every team has stuff on both sides. You know, sometimes you're on the right side of it, sometimes you're on the wrong side of it. It happens. The notion that like any of us, and I know you're not in this group, but the notion that anybody should feel bad about being up 3-1 as opposed to 2-2 or I guess worse is frankly laughable to me. And I don't know what else there is to say about that.
Well, I think back on similar plays where the Knicks have been on the receiving end of it.
Yeah.
Two that come to mind immediately.
Okay.
Kobe White, as Benji pointed out, as he tweeted very well, how this was kind of like the karma from the Kobe White shot. But my issue with that game when the Knicks lost to the Bulls, yes, it was very frustrating that Josh Hart fouled Kobe White. And you could maybe try to make an argument that it wasn't or shouldn't have been a foul. The fact that it came down to how do we overcome this 20+ point deficit?
Yep.
That was the bigger issue for me. Losing to the Rockets when Jalen Brunson got called for at home. Right. Yep. When Jalen Brunson got called for the last second foul on Holiday, incredibly frustrating. Blamed the refs. Absolutely. How could you not? And yet, what was the larger issue? That it even got to that point. Because it's so easy for us to look at the Zebras and say, it's on them. Everything else, if it had played out fine, if you change that moment, who knows what could happen? Look inward. Look at yourself. Look at all of the plays that happened in that game. If you're Detroit, instead of just pointing at the refs or being upset about it. And I agree with you. The mindset of we're going to beat the crap out of you. But then if there's contact, it's, well, hold on, guys. I mean, there's contact. It's clear. It frustrates me. And I, as you know, after game one, tried to be as respectful as possible with the Pistons as an opponent. So much so that my good friend, very good friend, who is a Pistons fan, where we have not talked much about this series. The only thing that we talked about before game 4 was he said, look, I don't want to talk about it because I just don't want to go there. But you realize everyone hates Jalen Brunson. Like everyone outside of New York hates Jalen Brunson. And I said, good. Yes, I know. Good. Let them hate Jalen Brunson because I get to watch Jalen Brunson on my basketball team and they do not. And, you know, still that level of decorum, wanted to keep it pretty fresh, or rather keep it simple. And the aftermath of all of that, I kept going to, how do you not recognize there's so much more to this than just that one play? I mean, perhaps don't go 0 of 6 from 3 in the first quarter and 2 of 10 in the second quarter. That would be 2 of 16. I've got a list. I've got more. Okay, sorry. Well, we can go band for band, and I'm sure we'll find alignment on a lot of these things.
Yeah, I was go.
Here's where we're at, right? Perhaps don't shoot better than 8th percentile in points per possession. Have an effective field goal percentage higher than the 13th percentile. Perhaps a turnover percentage that's higher than the 6th percentile. And mind you, John, the Pistons, as things stand right now, are 18th of the 20 teams to make the playoffs and the play-in in turnover percentage. And the only two teams that have a higher turnover percentage than the Pistons were the Bulls and the Kings, who were eliminated first among all 20. So that's that. Game 4, do better than being the third percentile in points per play in the half court. Half court's important. Pistons did well in transition. Half court, they didn't. That wasn't their speed. The Knicks are dead last in accuracy in finishing in the postseason. Small sample sizes for all of this, but this is where we stand. They are dead last, despite having the fourth highest frequency in the playoffs. Or in Game 4, they were in the 0th percentile for that. Not
finishing at the rim.
In finishing, yeah, that bad. They were that terrible. Detroit, perhaps do better than a 9-3 run in the 4 minutes and 38 seconds that Jalen Brunson was out of the game. You did a great job on defense.
That's a good call.
Didn't score enough. That seems like a you problem, not a ref problem. Don't blow an 11-point lead with 8 minutes and 8 seconds to go right before Bridges hit that three, because that's what really started the party in a lot of ways. If you do a better job of expanding or maintaining that lead, there's no way we are even talking about a last second play, because it doesn't exist, because you're already ahead. I mean, again, the physicality, but then it's not physical enough when it benefits you. It feels a little hypocritical. Pistons fans, they hate the fact that Brunson is this grifter, right? That's all we hear about. He's grifting. He's the second best player in the series. He's a foul grifter. Pistons fans seem to have a lot of problems with him grifting and getting the line. Yet I haven't heard a peep about the fact that the Pistons have the second best free throw rate in the playoffs. Knicks are 8th. So is it Jalen Brunson, or is it the fact that your team as a whole gets to the line because you've also rebounded the ball and had second chances? Yeah. That's great. Knicks have not been able to defend you on the glass. You get to the line. But apparently, when it's just Brunson, it's a problem. The refs swallow their whistle and everything else. Tim Hardaway Jr. was likely fouled. There was contact. Josh Hart admitted it. Full report said he was fouled by Josh Hart. Josh Hart. How did Tim Hardaway Jr. even get the ball, John? Yeah. Tim Hardaway Jr. got the ball because Josh Hart was fouled by Tobias Harris, whose foot was also on the line. If the possession had even gone that way, shoved Josh Hart to the ground. Ball slips out. Convenient. That's the bad boy Pistons mentality. But apparently, it's cool. It's fine. The moving screens, the offensive line, pushing and shoving that we see. I'm glad that Dan Campbell has had an influence on the city of Detroit, because it's contagious. And that's great for Detroit. I'm really glad that they're able to find ways to be physical and get away with it. Because I haven't seen too many moving screen calls. Like when Campaign got laid out, didn't see too much there either. But that wasn't this game. Different game. So what does it even matter? I mean, the Knicks have 2 All-NBA players and the Pistons have 1. And at the end of the day, that's a clear difference between the two teams. Like, it's a talent gap. And I've heard Detroit fans who claim to be incredibly tough, like especially my friend who loves his Pistons. He, in the aftermath, so angry, was like, congrats, I guess. You guys are going to get washed in the Celtics. You know how soft it is to be like, wow, we're not even dead yet, and you guys are going to lose in the next series? And he's not the only one. And I said, you're better than this. And he said, I am not. And I honestly respected him more for acknowledging he's not better than that. And I love him. And that's just the case, but not better than that. So at the end of the day, when you look at all of these things, and I didn't even talk about the fact that while this play wasn't challengeable, JB Bickerstaff using it in the first half to remove any ability to use it later. Forget about the final play. Any other moment that you needed, also getting bailed out in game 3 with the shot clock at 0.5. All of this, you have had breaks. Cade Cunningham, the best player in the series, had an opportunity to have ice in his veins, be clutch, beat the clutch player of the year in Jalen Brunson. And what did he do, John? He missed it. He missed the shot. Missed it. So as far as I can tell, and I'll get off my soapbox.
No, I love it.
I look at this team that has been awarded opportunities and chances, and how Malik Beasley talks all about the LCA, Little Caesars Arena, how it's going to be more lit. That's what the streets are saying, right? More lit. And kudos to the Pistons fans. They were loud. It was more lit. Knicks fans travel well. Knicks fans don't really care. It's fine. You can hit us with the too little. It's fine. We can hit you with 3-1. It doesn't really matter. All I know, John, you can't spell Little Caesars Arena without 2 L's. That's it. That's it. At the end of the day, it's 3-1. And now the Pistons have to win 3 consecutive games in order to play more basketball. Well, and the Knicks have to win 1 of the next 3. So Godspeed.
Godspeed to them. I very much would not like it to be a best of. Well, no, it wouldn't be a best of 3. I don't want this to go to 7. I don't want this to go to 6. But we'll put that aside for a second. 3 things that I thought of that was beautiful, by the way. Number 1, talking about Malik Beasley talking. Everybody's talking. Everybody from Detroit's been talking the whole freaking series. They were talking before the series. They've been talking throughout the series. They've been talking since game 4. They thought they could get in the Knicks' heads before the series started. At no point has any Knick, coach, player, executive, ball boy, trainer, anyone, at no point has anyone taken the bait. The Knicks have gone out there, they've played their game, and they've gone on to the next one. That's it. All you hear is Pistons nonsense, and that's all it is. It's nonsense. And they thought that this was their best way to beat the Knicks is to talk this big game. It hasn't worked. That's number 1. Number 2, it wasn't just the last shot by Cade. 1 for 4 in the fourth quarter for Cade Cunningham, and from the field, Jalen Brunson 7 for 11 from the field in the fourth quarter. If you are at home and you have an All-NBA level player and he is ascending to a new plane of existence in the NBA hierarchy, I don't care what you want to say about how much help he does or does not have. You got to come through with a better effort than that. You just have to come through with a better effort than that. He didn't. Jalen Brunson did, and that's why we're sitting here up 3-1. And number 3, speaking of Jalen Brunson, and you're telling everybody hates Jalen Brunson. That's what your friend said, and I know he's not the only one echoing that sentiment. You either die a hero, you live long enough to become the villain, right? That's the quote.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a guy in the league last year more popular than Jalen Brunson? I don't know that there was. If there was, I may have missed it. He was in the top 2 or 3. In your opinion, honestly, has he changed his play style at all in the last 12 months, 15 months, 18 months, at any point in time since he's come to the Knicks?
I've been wondering about that just this week because I don't think he's changed it. I just wonder how much of this is the game plan and how much of it is improvisation. Like, if we find that he baits players and telling Jalen Brunson not to drive is like telling a fish not to swim. He's going to do it. It's natural to him, but it's the intelligence level of how he gets you in the air and how he fools you and the footwork and the dedication and the hard work that goes into it. So I have been wondering, is this game plan? Is this the offense is stagnant? I got to make something out of nothing here. Not quite sure. But to answer your question, I don't think a significant fact. I don't think there's been a whole lot of change between what we saw before and what we're seeing now.
I don't either. And I'll say this, and I said it the night of the game, and I wrote about it, and I won't divert on this point. Game 2 was bad. Game 2, he made it personal. He made it personal between him and Asar Thompson, trying to get Asar Thompson fouled out. He was looking for contact at the detriment of his team and to the detriment of just doing the best he could to try to win the basketball game. I called it out at the moment. It was the one. It was as poor a process as I've seen Brunson have. Honestly, maybe in his entire. He's played worse games, but from a process standpoint, I disliked it almost as much as any game I've seen him play in a Knicks uniform. With the exception of that one game, I don't think he has changed anything. And if he's changed anything, it's been minimal. I think he's basically been the same guy, with maybe a tweak here or a tweak there since he's come to the Knicks. So the fact that now all of a sudden, because the Knicks have actually all of a sudden are like, oh wow, this is like a serious franchise. It's not just a cute story anymore. Now people are turning around and saying, oh, this is a whole bunch of nonsense. Like Jalen Brunson, he sucks. This is worse than watching Trae Young or whatever people are saying. It's just like, again, similar to the foul call reaction, it's amusing to me. And I don't know what to say about it other than that I just find it a little bit funny. But, I'm happy it's not my problem. That's all.
It's our benefit. It's not our problem. It's our
Yeah, it's to our game. Benefit. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, you want to be in the position where your guy is getting all the hate because that means he's probably doing something pretty well. Before we move on to see where this ranks among the best wins of the Thibodeau era. Obviously it's important. How vital, if at all, do you think it is for them to win Game 5?
Extremely, because it means that my Knicks in 5 pick was accurate. And I care deeply about my track record. I care about being right. And it's going to shake me to my core if I have to come to grips with the fact that I was wrong about something, John. I just can't.
I wouldn't want that for you, Jeremy.
I wouldn't want that for me either, which is exactly what I'm saying. No, I just don't want momentum to go in any way. This is a Knicks team, especially Jalen Brunson, who, if he's hurt, he's going to stay hurt. He's not. I don't think the difference between him being healthy and not is really an option here. It's just, will he be less limited than he could be? And Jalen Brunson could be totally fine. And I'm just making things up here, but I think he's still hurting. It's hard not to. The ability to get more rest against, especially if you are moving on and if you are playing the team that is a 3-1 lead in the Boston Celtics, it's a different story. That's something that you need to perhaps rest up as much as you can for. Mentally too. These series are physically taxing, but they also are mentally draining. And there's just a ton of prep work. You want to put it in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
So to me, it is extremely important to nip this in the bud. Also, look at what the highlight clips of the last time the Pistons won a home game. It was in 2008. You saw a Celtics team where everyone's retired. They've been long retired since then. I shudder at what the footage is for the last time the Knicks have won a clinching game for a series at home, because the footage there, DVDs were the hot new thing, and we're past that point. It's obsolete. I don't want to have to think about the last time that happened to be like, what single digit age was I? No, I just don't really want that energy in my life. So the ability to check off these boxes of things that you did, like almost a bucket list of this agenda of things that you have been able to, like, okay, great. Won your first playoff game in over a decade and had confetti against the Miami Heat. Check. Won your first playoff game in ages since then against Cleveland Cavaliers. Check. Won your first series. Check. Like all these things, these small milestones that mean very little in the grand scheme of things, but can mean something to fans who have poured their hearts out. That's what matters. The Knicks aren't going to care about the past. The Knicks are only going to care about the present. That's the fandom in me. But the ability for them to just rest up and start prepping for whoever would be next, get it done.
Can I tell you a funny story?
Absolutely.
It's not really much of a story. It's more of an anecdote. The last time the Knicks did clinch a playoff series on their home court, Game 6 against the Indiana Pacers in 1999. I did not see a minute of that game because I was at a wedding, and I don't remember whose wedding it was. I remember it was, but it was a wedding that I for some reason could not miss, because obviously I would have missed it if I could, and I couldn't miss it. I remember I was there with my buddy Aaron, and I remember I went out and either borrowed or purchased or something I was about to say a transistor radio, some sort of device that I could listen to the game on, and I listened to the game with a one earpiece in the entire thing, and it was glorious. So considering I didn't even watch the last time the Knicks clinched a home series or a playoff series at home, I would like them to clinch this series at home very much, and for all the reasons that you spoke about. Look, do I expect them to go in and emerge victorious in the series against the Celtics? No, I don't. And that's, they could win by 80 in Game 5, and I don't think my opinion on that would change. But I do think they could give Boston a run for their money. I don't know that they will, but I think they can. And I think if they have a real shot to do that, like you, I don't want to say that it's like absolutely necessary that they win in 5, because if they don't win in 5, there's no chance that they're going to be able to like push Boston. I don't know if I want to make that direct correlation, but it sure seems like a lot more likely. So, you know, I mean, at the very least, I think they'll come out and, you know, play the right way from the start, because they've done that now in several consecutive games. So that's something, right?
It is. And, you know, it's almost a crime. It makes sense why we haven't gotten to it at this point, but Karl-Anthony Towns, my God, just astonishing that when he pulled up from 30 feet, it wasn't a no, yes moment. It was just the Knicks have a center who can do that. And he hit it.
I didn't go no yet. I was just like,
no, right. That's what I'm saying. It's just like, yeah, we've seen him pull up and hit it, and it's fine. Like he has taken Duran out back several times in this series, and this was unlike the others. It was astonishing. But for the Knicks to have that player on their team, and I'm glad that this seems to be a winning trade for both teams, both the Knicks and for the Timberwolves, because all players, I guess, needed some sort of change of scenery. But just to have that option, if you're Jalen Brunson, where he's doing a lot of it, doesn't have to be the only guy. And I know Bridges' offense was at times nauseating. Defense was fantastic. But for him to at least hit the shots that he hit, box score ain't pretty, but if you watch the game, which people have and did, and hopefully they remember exactly what prompted them to still stay in it. And Josh Hart was like the quietest, great game we've seen. He continues to be so under the radar and yet everywhere at the same time. Yeah. It's like, I forget about him because he's so reliable. I mean, when he takes you out of games, it's just forget it. Obviously, just get him out of there. But when he's on, and when you've got a center lining up where he hits a wide open 3 because it's Josh Hart really going to take that shot? Yes, he is.
He is. He's going to make it.
And he's going to hit it. And this is the 3rd playoffs in a row that he's doing that. Learn. And the one other thing I just want to mention, because you talked about from the Pistons side, the one thing I respected that what Cade did and has done is he's been all business. Yep. When his teammates, especially when Holland and Cat got into that tussle, it was Cade who was the guy who was like, dude, get out of here. Come on, let's calm down. That to me showed maturity. It showed leadership, but it also showed their younger players simply haven't been there. And if that team were further along in their learning curve, could be a different story. But what do you say? Hope or wish in one hand, shit in the other. See what fills up first.
I don't think I've ever once heard that.
You say that all the time, and I've said that you say it, and then you consistently say you've never seen it, and you gaslight me. And I know you say it, John, because I feel like I learned it from you, and I'm just losing my mind because it's like I know you said it.
No, I haven't. I've never said anything about shitting in my head or anybody else's head. All right, let's rank our top 3 Knick playoff wins under Thibodeau. Before we do that, is there any argument or is there any thought by you that we should consider any playoff losses in this conversation? Yes or no? Very quickly.
For the top 3 games?
Top 3 playoff games of the Thibodeau era. I'm asking because I remember your reaction.
The only one I can think of is the final game against Miami where Brunson went off.
Oh,
and it was a learning experience for the Knicks.
I was going to say, because I remember your reaction being at Game 1 against the Hawks and how you talked about that being just like this magical experience. But
that's because I was in the stands. But I hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have 17 wins to choose from. We have 1 against the Hawks in 2021. We have 6 wins in the 2023 postseason. We have 7 wins in the 2024 postseason. And we have 3 wins here in the 2025 postseason. I don't have the wherewithal / brain space to go from the bottom up. So that didn't come out right. So why don't we go from the top down? Didn't come out any better.
That sounds better.
No,
proud of that one.
It's all bad. It's all very bad.
Most recent to
no, I wasn't even saying that. I was just like, I think we should start our list at number 1 and then go down to number 3.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay. Do you have a clear number 1 in mind?
I do.
What is your number 1?
It will have to be the Sixers game 2.
Sixers game 2. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in the arena for that one.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the only pushback, and I'm not going to reveal my number 1 yet, but over all the clinching games that they've had, actually, all the clinching games, over the 2 clinching games that they've had.
Yes, and I will tell you why. The euphoria from game 5 of the Cavs game, and I was actually talking about this with Kevin yesterday, really exciting moment. Not the prettiest of games, a bit of a slog. Exciting to see, oh my God, they're going to win a series. But I also knew, it was like, okay, well, if they lost this game, it's game 6 at home. And then if you're losing it game 6 at home, it's stressful, but then at least you've got another opportunity with game 7. That really was the part of it for me. Then you go into the other clinching game.
Sixers
against Philly. That one was more, I really hope they don't blow it, because I just saw what happened in game 5 and this series has been too close, and I don't want Philly to hang around any longer, because how many more players is Joel Embiid going to maul and potentially injure while we're still playing them? So it really didn't have more to do with excitement. It had to do kind of with it was a little bit less pressure. And I understand game 2 versus game 5. It's a slightly different story, but it just felt like the against the odds when you also listen to the Sixers broadcast and they are already celebrating, and then the Knicks steal the ball, miss the shot, get the rebound, kick it out, hit the shot, win the game. The entire, even though you're already up 1-0 when that happens, the entire energy of that series felt like, yeah, good luck, Philly. Good luck winning 4 of the next 5. So it's just the shock and awe of that game. It has to be my number 1.
I'm going to go with Sixers game 6. I respect everything that you just said.
Mm-hmm.
For me, and I remember our conversation about it, game 5 against the Sixers was the most apoplectic I had felt about a basketball game since the 90s. It was the worst that I had felt about a sporting event since back when I was I used to root for the baseball team that you root for, the game 7 of the 2001 World Series. So it had been not since I was a teenager, since I had felt the way I felt at the end of game 5. Fast forward to game 6. So they were up, and I just went and looked it up. They were up by 8 with 2.5 minutes left to go, and then watched as the Philadelphia 76ers went on a 10-2 run to tie the game at 111. I don't remember exactly how I was feeling as that 10-1 run was happening, but I can imagine. And then the game was tied when Josh Hart made the 3 that is the 3 that we all remember. And then even if they hit that 3, the game was still not over. There was a bunch of free throws after that. And then Buddy Hield ultimately did have a chance to win the game at the buzzer. So for me, when you factor in the stakes and how I was feeling coming off the Game 5 loss, the fact that, the potential devastation and the pressure on the franchise that would have been going into Game 7, and the Sixers would be coming off 2 straight wins if they had lost this game, the Josh Hart make and the potential collapse within Game 6 itself. And on top of that, just how great a game it was, how great Brunson played, all of the things, that's number 1 for me.
I had a thought as you were saying that, and I think that's totally fair to have that. I think it was a great win. You put the Sixers to bed. Would it be fair to say that one of us is a hopeful person driven by anxiety, and the other is an anxious person driven by hope? Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
It does, and I'm not sure who's who, but continue.
In the sense of your victories, it's, oh, thank God.
Yes.
They didn't lose.
We've avoided devastation.
Right. And mine are, look at this win. And I consider, I can be an anxious person, but what's driven for me, like I try to be hopeful, but there's the anxiety that leaks out. Or is it, I'm just anxious, but no, look at the hope that's there. And we can figure out, because it depends on the day, where we could say which one we are. But absolutely. I just, in how we've conversed over the years, yep, it lines up. It just dawned on me where it's like, yeah, look at this great win. And it's like, well, yeah, it was a great win. It wasn't a loss, which is great. And I feel like that is what makes us, where we find it's the head and the heart. It's the, all of those feelings. So no, but it's a great win to have as your number 1. And that's the beauty of it. It's all art, as we've talked about before.
What's your number 2?
Again, I go back and forth on Game 1 and Game 5 of that Cleveland series.
Okay.
And yesterday I really was feeling like it was Game 5. And today I'm feeling like it was Game 1.
Okay.
Because you set the tone right away with all that talk of Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs are the better team.
Yep.
Josh Hart, once again, hits a huge 3. You punch him right in the mouth.
He does.
You don't look back. But there's something about Game 3 as well. And I was fortunate enough to be in the building for Game 3 and Game 4. In Game 3, the defensive clinic was outstanding. And Game 4, it just felt like, all right, I can taste it. We're almost there. Let's wrap it up. So that really was a wonderful series for so many reasons.
Yes, it was.
It's hard to pick a favorite one.
It was pretty dark after Game 2. There was a lot sure, of doubt in the air after Game 2.
There was, but it wasn't a sweep. So it's going to happen, Yeah. But you took 1 in Cleveland to begin with, which is perhaps more than people were expecting. So
it was. They did the job. Yeah,
they did. Today, I'm feeling like it's Game 1.
You're going to go Game 1. Okay.
Of that Cleveland series. What about you?
We're going to have the same number 2. I am also going to go Cavs Game 1. I told the story about this last time, so I'm not going to repeat myself. There was something about that win and the fact that I understand they had the Hawks series 2 years earlier, but there was something about that series, something about that game that held more weight for me than any game for me personally, more weight for me than any game since 2000. So 23 years. And that they won it in the way that they did it. And, it was also a big year for Knicks Film School. And so yeah, even though it was like Game 1, it was like, it felt like the culmination of a lot of things. So that's going to be my number 2. What is your number 3?
I think it might be Pistons Game 4.
Really? Okay. I was hoping one of us would put it on.
I think so. And mind you, this is coming from the person who, of all the Game 1s, ranks that Pistons game dead last of the Game 1s. And why? Why is this one exciting in the moment and the last one wasn't? And I'm going to go back to what I usually do. This is a really good story. And that was a good story on its own. But I love my lore. Lore is great. We built up way more lore in that time. Things got chippy. Things escalated. It was dramatic. It was exciting. It was stressful. It was everything you'd want if you were to retell this story. The magic, the mystique, the myth of Jalen Brunson, that was punctuated in this game. It was like, I don't want to say it was the Willis Reed moment, because I've even seen in a playoff game Jalen Brunson coming back from an injury where it was the Pacers game. What was it? I think it was game 2 of the Pacers game, the Pacers series.
Well, no game.
Game
so
one.
so in the Pacers series, no. He was injured. No, he was injured in the middle of the series, and then he came out in game 5 and looked like he set the. I think he either set the Knicks scoring record. He came very close to the Knicks playoff scoring record. But it was in the middle of the Pacers series they got injured.
But it wasn't game 5 because
he didn't get injured in game 5. He didn't get injured in game 5. No.
I want to say, and again, this can all be fact checked. I want to say that it was game 1 or 2 because I was in my usual seats. I was able to go to game 5, but I was elsewhere. And I just distinctly remember the reason why I say it was game 2 is because it felt like.
Well, that's when OG went
right. Well, so then maybe it was game 1 where I feel like I saw Jalen Brunson get hurt and I was in my seat at halftime. And then I saw him coming out of the tunnel and it felt like a Willis Reed moment where it's like people look around, he's here, he's coming out. Maybe and everyone else at home is upset because look at what's happening. And I'm just like, I'm seeing, is anyone else seeing this? I can't be the only one. So that was a really exciting moment, but in this one, I think it would have to be the Pistons series where it just, it wasn't just Jalen. And that was the other thing. It was Karl and it was Mikal and it was Josh and it was a team effort. Absolutely. But I think it had to have been this one for number 3, but the list that can be bumped down depending on what the rest of the playoffs look like.
So I'm going to go the other way. For now, it's not going to make my list. If you ask me, what time is tip off tomorrow night? If you ask me 26 hours from now, it might take number 3 on my list because I think for me they would have to win this series. I think they would have to win this series of 5 games for game 4 to be on my list. As of right now, my last spot is going to come down to Sixers game 2 or Sixers game 4. I understand Sixers game 4 does not hold the same weight for most people as it does for me. That is, I don't know that I've ever been as impressed by the Knicks as a team as I was in game 4 against Philly. And, oh, by the way, Jalen Brunson scored 47 points in that game, and he was pretty freaking good. But I'm going to have to give it to Philly game 2. So we're going to share 2 entries on the list. But we're going to share Sixers game 2. It's your number 1. It's my number 3. We're going to share Cavs game 1. Both of it have it. I
thought you said game 4 for the Sixers.
No, I'm going with game 2. So okay, I'm going with game 2. Just over Sixers game 4 and Pistons game 4, with an honorable mention to Pacers game 5 from last year.
That was a great one.
Yes. Another one I probably skewed because I was in the building. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing I think we could say, and as it's kind of come up as we've gone through this, there are like 10 or close to 10, if not 10, legitimately like awesome, great wins from this era. And the era hasn't even been that long yet, number 1. And number 2, they haven't even made it past the second round. I don't know what that says. I think it probably says that Knicks fans have been down bad for a long time. And playoff wins, like any playoff win for us, it probably feels like water in the desert. even after we have been there for 4 of the last 5 years now. But that's how it is, and that's how it feels. So this was fun. I look forward to continuing to do this. Who knows? Maybe we'll do it again later this postseason. I have a feeling we won't, but I would love to be surprised.
I hope that every win on this list, by the way, for both of ours, is completely pushed down.
I mean,
because it would mean that there were far better wins than what we've seen, and we've seen some great wins.
I mean, if they, I don't want to say that. Yes, there is a world where 3 weeks from right now, our entire list looks different. But we could just leave it at that. I would love to see that world. I don't know that we will see it, but I would love to see it. Okay. Jeremy, anything from you before we get the hell out of here?
I guess rest in peace to Dick Barnett. Unfortunate to lose a legend at any point, but especially during the playoffs. That's the only thing I can think of other than let's wrap this up in 5.
Let's wrap it up in 5. I said my piece about Dr. Barnett last night after the post game. I'll also have something in the newsletter on Tuesday about Dr. Barnett. And for anybody who missed it, there was a beautiful obituary in the New York Times, which details his life, his career, a lot of great quotes in there. He was quite a man, and far more than just a basketball player. Certainly. So yes, rest in peace, Dr. Dick Barnett. I will be on the post game for Game 5. So come join me, hopefully for a nice little celebration. And as usual, me and Jeremy will be back. Same. Well, actually, we don't know when we'll be back. We'll be back at some point roughly in our weekly spot, but we got to see what the schedule entails. So keep a lookout for that. Until then, everybody enjoy your week, and we will talk to you soon. Peace out.